Welcome. It's 5:30. This is our Committee of the Whole meeting for August 23rd, 2022. I'm Kat Martinez. I'll be conducting. Diane is excused this evening, but we've got Gary, Rosalba, and Pam, and we've got all sorts of excitement today. We've got Kim Sorensen sitting in for the mayor, and we've got, I just panicked. Will you tell me your name again? Brian, I'm sorry. Hi, Brian Farnsworth. We're glad you're here sitting in for the city attorney's office. We appreciate that. And Brooke, our recorder. All right, we're going to jump into, we've got two different minutes to look at today. We've got property tax increase town hall, July 13th, 2022. Any corrections, concerns, or I'll take a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from July 13th, 2022 and July 19th, 2022.
I will go ahead and second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Any opposed? Abstained? I think we all were aye. Great. Then we've got the Committee of the Whole from July 19th, 2022. Any?
I approved both. I said both.
Oh, you said both. Amazing. Are we all comfortable with that, or did we want to take them separately? Amazing. We all right, City Attorney? How schedule is that? We're okay?
Can you take that? We're gonna make you work for it today.
You need to get my attention at any time. All right, discussion items. Discussion on a resolution authorizing the Red Mesa Topaha Solar Project amended and restated transaction schedule under the power supply agreement with Utah Associated Municipal Power Systems. Hi, Blaine.
Hi, Kat. Thanks for having me. It seemed like it's been a long time since I've been in front of the council. And I don't know why it's been so long, but maybe the summer schedule and such. But we're going to talk about some neat issues. First of all, I want to thank our parliamentarian for making that approval of those minutes. The Bryants and GL couldn't have done that. I know I couldn't have. Wait till we could put Kim on the hot fire here. Let's see what happens here. Anyway, today I'm excited to bring a project to you. This is a large-scale solar project down in the southeast part of Utah. In your packet, you have some numerous entries that we can talk about. But our goal tonight, in this meeting, is to discuss and ask your questions on, I'll give the answers, hopefully, on this project. And then in the meeting to follow at 6:30, we will ask for the council to adopt the resolution that will authorize the city to enter into a 25-year agreement to buy energy from this resource. This resource, as I mentioned, is in southeast Utah, near Bluff, Utah. It is called the Red Mesa Topaha Solar Project. It's a large-scale solar project where you see acres and acres of photovoltaic panels out there. And you've seen them in pictures, and this is exactly what we're looking at. The project is built by the NTUA, which is the Navajo Tribal Utah Utility Authority, NTUA. It's 66 megawatts in total. And Murray's asking for 5 megawatts of the 66. This is a UAMPS project. Remember UAMPS? I just came back from Logan, and I know a couple of you are just overloaded with acronyms of what this means and what that means. UAMPS stands for Utah Associated Municipal Power Systems, which is a group of 40 other cities in our state and also in our region that group together to buy resources, to buy projects like this, to buy and sell power back and forth with each other. There's strength in numbers, and that's the purpose of the UAMPS group. So this is an agreement with UAMPS, and UAMPS is agreeing with the NTUA, the Navajo Tribal Utah Utility Authority, for this project. So in the packet, you've been given quite a bit of stuff to read. This hopefully will give you a background on the project and what's going to be asked of you. The first thing I put in there was a memo from me, kind of introducing the topic of what's happening here. Number two, I put a fact sheet from the UAMPS organization, kind of a white paper, where they described why we are amending a power sales agreement that we entered into 2019. So this is an amendment to that, and hopefully their fact sheet will explain that. The third thing I put in the packet was the actual resolution that the council is going to be asked to adopt. Our city attorneys have reviewed this, and they've given their stamp of approval on the content of the resolution. Number 4 is the actual power sales amendment. I think it's 1 or 2 pages, I can't remember. It's a short one, but it actually denotes 25-year term and the cost of the power and a little more of the details. We've also included a resolution numbered 1937. That was a resolution that was passed back in 2019 by the council that originally gave the power department authority to enter into that long-term contract. And I'll explain why that resolution or that agreement no longer is going to be worthwhile to us. And the last thing we included was a master power sales agreement between UAMPS and Murray. This is kind of the boilerplate or template agreement that we enter into with UAMPS, not only with this project, but other projects. And I'll explain a little bit about some of the other projects we've entered into. And then the last thing in the project, in your packet, I believe, is the 2019 contract. So those are a lot of things to wade through. And hopefully by the end of this discussion, we can kind of put it all back together. Again, the goal tonight is to ask a Q&A here in this meeting, and then at 6:30 we'll ask for your adoption of the resolution. So let's talk about this project. This project began several years ago. UAMPS, as you know, is our joint action agency. And along with 40 other cities, UAMPS brings resources like this to the cities. I meet once a month up at the Salt Lake Hardware Building where the UAMPS group is, and they bring resources from wind to solar to geothermal to coal to a lot of crazy ideas out there people are making the electricity with. And then they give the opportunity to each individual city around that table. There's, like I said, there's 40 of us. And then we can decide whether we want to enter into that agreement or not, or enter into that project. Sometimes we just throw it out. You know, it's hamsters on a wheel type stuff. And we say, no, that's not for us. So in this case, the Navajo Tribal Authority came to Murray and said, we're going to build a solar project, a large-scale solar project. Would you be interested? And we were interested. UAMPS group was interested. The 66 megawatts of the project was subscribed to pretty fast. And I believe the NTUA has also built 2 other big large-scale solar projects already. This is their 3rd one. There's a lot of sunshine down there.
What is the location? Is this in like the Blanding area?
Yes. I don't know exactly. It's a bluff Blanding area. It is in the Utah side.
Yeah.
In that corner. And there's going to be a dedication. Remember, we almost went to the groundbreaking. Almost. Then they canceled it. That's the area. It's down in the Red Rock area. Just Thursday up in Logan, when we had our meetings, they did show a picture of the location of this. It's nothing but sagebrush. It's not in the Red Rock. At least I don't think it's in the Red Rock touristy area. It's out of the way because a lot of people look at photovoltaic fields and think, that's not very pretty, especially when they expect to see, the cool stuff that's down there. So let me give an example of some of the projects. I'm kind of teaching them. I'm not teaching down to you. I'm teaching with you. A couple of projects that we've entered into in the UAMPS project was the Hunter project. That's the coal-fired plant out in Price. We entered into that. We entered into the Government and Public Affairs project, and that's what they call it. They call it a project. UAMPS calls it a project. That's our lobbying effort on behalf of UAMPS. Each of these projects have a price tag to them, and we pay dues, you might say, or at least somewhat of a stipend of some type. Now, a project that we did not enter that was brought to everybody was called the Natural Gas Procurement Project. Now, we thought that we in Murray, and we've proven that in the past, that if we went directly to the supplier and bought natural gas for our turbines, we could get it cheaper than going through the UAMPS group. So that's an example of a project that came to the table that we didn't participate in. The other one was a waste heat project that we opted not to participate in. It's down in Vail, down by Enterprise, down in that area, where they took waste heat off of a natural gas pipeline compressor station, recycle the heat, and make some electricity. We initially were interested in that project, but found out it was only a couple megawatts, which is not a large amount of power for a big Murray, and we thought it wasn't really worth our time and effort, so we didn't sign up for that project. So I'm just trying to say that different projects come, different projects go. This one stuck with us. We thought it's time to get into some large-scale solar, so we opted to show some participation in this.
So with the 6%, can we ask questions throughout, or do you want us to wait to the end?
I'm okay the way, Kat.
Okay. The 6 megawatts, how much is that, like, percentage-wise of our total?
Okay, 5 megawatts of the 66.
5 megawatts.
Yeah, that's the 6 is about 4% of Murray's energy needs.
And are we able to get more, or is that what all we were allowed to get?
Not with this project. This project is subscribed.
Okay.
Now, if there's a council meeting being held right now in Fillmore somewhere and they opt not to get into it, we could probably take some of theirs. But for this project, it's subscribed to, but there are always large-scale solar projects and other projects that come down the pike.
And how much, the cost of it, I think I saw in here, was $37
That's right.
megawatt per hour. Is that right? Or megawatt hour?
Megawatt hours.
How does that compare to the cost of our other power sources?
Okay. Let's maybe it'd be a good idea, Gary, if we maybe talked about our different resources and how this fits into our mix. I mentioned the 100 Power project, coal, $40 a megawatt hour for the coal. CRSP, which is the Colorado River Storage Project, Federal Hydro, is about $35, $36. Landfill, we have 2 landfill facilities, one at Transjordan Landfill, one at Salt Lake County Landfill, where we capture the methane, use the methane through a Caterpillar engine. That's around $60. That's most expensive. Our Cottonwood Hydro, which is the hydro at the mouth of the canyon, is about $20, $25. It depends. Let's see, what else do we have? We have San Juan Power, which is the coal plant in Four Corners area, and on the New Mexico side, is around $60 a megawatt hour. When we blend all of our resources together, we have a blending mix of around $45 to $50 a megawatt hour, all the resources. Now, move the decimal a little bit, that's 5 cents. That's 5 cents a kilowatt hour or $50 a megawatt hour. So I could use that interchangeable, but to give you an idea, your rates, residential rates, are about 9.5 cents a kilowatt hour. And the resource side of things is about 5 cents. So that, about half of the rate you pay in your house comes just for the cost of the power. The other half is the infrastructure. It's the in lieu of tax transfer to the city. Those types of things is part of your other components for the rate. Good questions.
Just to reiterate what you've said, it costs us more to get power from coal, from the 2 coal plants, than it does from any of our renewable opportunities.
Not landfill.
Landfill's the only one that was more. Okay.
So this $37 is pretty good for green. Now, remember, it was going to be 23 back in 2019 when we signed the contract, and escalated over 2% over 25. I'll get into that in just a minute, but this $37 in today's prices is pretty good for a green resource. Wind is another resource that we don't have direct access to, but we do through deals in the UAMPS group. Murray has no wind in our name, but we could buy wind from somewhere else. That is in the $40 to $50 range probably. It's not a very good resource though, because it's only on a couple hours of the day sometimes, and it's usually at nighttime. This solar project plays right into us because it's on during the day when we need energy the most. As our loads go up and down according to how your sleep cycle is, turn the lights off, turn the lights on. We want power at around 5 in the afternoon to about 8 in the evening. That's when we need it the most. Solar by itself peaks around 1 or 2 in the afternoon. You would think that solar would peak when it's hottest part of the day. That's just kind of opposite what it does. The heat actually causes less electricity to be generated. So, but still, it's a good resource. We would like it at 5 in the afternoon, but we're getting it at 2. Now, when we buy this resource, it'll be dispatched through the UAMPS dispatcher. They watch all of our loads. They will tell us ahead of time, hey, we don't expect cloud cover in Bluff, Utah tomorrow. You can expect your full 5 megawatts from 10 in the morning to 8 at night. And then we will plan accordingly because we're watching all of our other resources as well. And we're buying and selling power. We will displace our more expensive ones and bring in the cheaper ones, or we'll try to sell or make deals with other cities. So this is going to be a good resource, we hope. So we decided to sign up. Now let's talk about why I'm back at you again, because we already signed up for it once in 2019. Back in 2018, 2019, we started showing interest in this, and UAMPS did a study, and they said that this 2019 resource was going to be good. So we entered into agreement, like I mentioned, at $23.15 a megawatt hour. And that escalated at 2% for 25 years. Average those 25 years out, it's about a $30 megawatt hour resource. I'm coming back to you tonight and saying that resource has now jumped to $37 versus the 30, but there's no escalation on top of it. That was one of the negotiations that we did when we went back to the Navajos and asked them why the increase in costs, and I'll get into that in just a second. They wanted to escalate the $37 at 2%, and so it would have been like a $50 resource, by the end. And so we held our own and said, no, $37 set for 25 years, and they came back and said that's the case. So after the Murray City Council in 2019 signed or authorized that resolution, and we signed the contract in August, Mayor Camp signed the actual contract in September of 2019, the design and the vendors started to get lined up to build a project down in the southeast Utah. COVID hit. COVID hit that first part of 2020, and it caused, you can hear this everywhere, supply chains, the supply chain problem. They were having trouble getting the precious metals for the photovoltaic panels. They're having trouble getting poles, wire, infrastructure, transformers, any number of items. And so actually between 2020 and 2021, there's very little construction that was done on site. Another key issue was the labor down on the reservation. They were very tight on who they let in because of the COVID issue. Skilled and non-skilled labor were not allowed into the reservation. So really the project went on a halt. What was going to be originally a spring of 2022, like last May, commencement soon was fall of 2022, spring of 2023. And now this will be June of 2023 as we move things forward. Hopefully in 2023 of June, this will be in our portfolio and we'll be able to use it. So after COVID or during the middle of COVID, the NTUA realized that $23.15 wasn't going to cut it. And so they came back to us and said, hey, we found a clause in the contract that said if any supply chain is mixed up or a problem, we're going to use the force majeure. Is that right, Grant? That's why he's here. Force majeure clause. And so they did. And UAMP said, well, wait a minute, we just can't go back to our councils and make all these changes. And the alternative was they had a $5 million penalty that they could have paid to UAMPs. But they used the force majeure clause and said, take us on, take us to court, kind of. Am I okay by saying those things? Just go like that if I could. So we came back and realized that we probably would not win in the court because there was force majeure. There were issues beyond the Navajo Tribal Utah Utility Authority that they couldn't control. So they came back and said, well, what about this price? What about this price? And we finally decided on the $37 price set. Now, when we buy a green commodity like this, there's also a green tag attached to it. They call it a green tag, or they call it a renewable energy credit. That's another acronym. We call it RECs, RECs, renewable energy credit. So when we have a green, it could be any green. It could be the landfill green. Some hydro is green. We have the energy that comes in, but we also have a commodity or a somewhat tangible tag that we can sell on the market. For example, let's use Kmart. Well, Kmart's not even around anymore, but say Pepsi. Pepsi wants to be 100% renewable, but they don't have hydros all over the world. They go buy somebody else's RECs so that they can say that they are green. It's all legal, and it's true that they can buy it. Once we sell the REC or the REC, we can't claim that as a green resource. So we keep it ourselves so that we can continue to tell our constituents we are 40% green or 45% green or whatever the case may be. So that there is a sellable product in addition to this. And the market goes up day to day. Sometimes it's worth $1 a megawatt hour. Sometimes it's worth 50 cents a megawatt hour. And I'd never recommend selling them, at least in the solar case, because then we can no longer claim that as a green resource. And we're kind of talking out of both sides of our mouth to our constituents. We said we're green, but we sold our green. So anyway, I want you to know that the $37 includes a REC, probably worth $1. So if we sold it, it'd be a $36 resource. All right, so here we are. We're ready to.
Hey, Blaine.
Yeah, resolve.
Can you explain a little bit how we are able to sell our resource from the dump? Because we get to sell that at price or higher. Is that correct?
We have two separate agreements with two different companies and two separate landfills.
Okay.
And you're right, we have that commodity. One's at $65 and one's at $68, I think, dollars a megawatt hour. We have the ability to bring that right into Murray's load, and we can do whatever we want to with that. We can
Because it's
ourselves.
ours, correct?
It's ours. That's ours.
Okay.
We can use that ourselves, or we can go to UAMPS and say who wants to buy it. In our case, in Trans-Jordan Landfill, we are selling some of that to a California entity who needs the green tag. We sell part of that resource, not all of it, to I don't know if I can say the name, but it's probably public anyway. Someone in California, it's UAMPS member. There's only two of them. Figure it out. That buys that energy with a green tag, helps them out, and we mark it up.
Right.
We've marked.
So, and sometimes in those cases, we can utilize, and UAMPS does the same thing, correct?
Yes.
They have certain projects that are green tag and they sell it to other cities like ourselves, and it just
Right.
kind of, the resources continue on.
I think you're onto it, Rizal, but it's a little bit complicated because, and I think let's go one step further and describe the solar. If we ever wanted to sell this solar that we're talking about tonight, we could bring it into load, sell it to UAMPS at, let's see, at $37. But then we would say, hey, we want to make a deal with Bountiful, and they're willing to pay $40 for a kilowatt hour, for a megawatt hour, or whatever. It's not, we've already sold our energy there, but it's not really a designated green energy that goes here or a coal energy. We're selling the commodity and we're selling it to Bountiful in a big circle. Yeah, it's green, but could be part of our 100. It could be part of our crisp. So there are ways around it.
Is it because the infrastructure is coming to Murray directly? Is that, is it a part of the infrastructure, the setup?
Yeah, most of the
I think I'm
resource-
just trying to understand why it can be considered grade once if we were to resell it.
Yeah, most of the resources we get, let's see, all go to what we call the hub, which is at Mona, Utah. Just as you go towards Nephi, on the side of the hill there's a gas plant that Rocky Mountain Power owns, but there's also the main substation for Utah. If we can get a kilowatt hour to Mona on a transmission line, that opens up the market. We can sell that kilowatt hour wherever we want and for how much we want. And the person that buys it doesn't really care, most cases, if it's green, blue, purple, whatever kilowatt hour it is. So that's the key. We've got to get it there. Now, theoretically, when we generate at the landfill, this is landfill that goes to the Mona substation that comes back to Murray, even though it's 4 miles that way. Theoretically, that electron has gone to Mona. It's marketable. UAMP says, okay, Murray, do you want to use it yourself? Do you want to sell it on the market? Or what do you want to do? So that is our key substation.
Thank you.
Yeah, great questions. All right, so I think the new date, let's just review. The new date will be June of 2023 when this comes online. We're going to accept 5 megawatts of the 66 for $37 at 25 years. And right now, there are photovoltaic panels that are being delivered on site. There, about 50% of the panels are on site, which is a big step forward because 8 months ago, there was nothing moving down there. So we know that the NTUA is serious about this. We know that they're going to build it. And there are new clauses in the new agreement that penalize them even further if they were to back out on this one. They put some securities forth. And so if they use a force majeure effect, I think it's mentioned in detail, they can't use that force majeure anymore. They're going to build the project, and whether they're in it or not, that's the case. If another city, as Gary, as I mentioned, if another city backs out and leaves some solar on the table, we're going to have a chance to get that. But other cities might want it too, but it'll be pro rata. But we're waiting for the next solar project to come down the road, and there'll be others. There's one up in Brigham City now they're looking at. I wouldn't think Brigham City is a solar capital of the world, but there is another big project up by Nucor, up in in fact, they call it the Steel photovoltaic large-scale plant or farm that UAMPS is looking at as well. We may get into that too. what we do is we have an exploratory project that people in the UAMPS group put money into, a couple thousand a month, and they explore all these different resources. And then the better ones come to the board of directors, and we decide thumbs up, thumbs down, it's not fitting our portfolio. All the UAMPS members is interested in this one because some have already got the resources lined up. They have too much. Others don't have enough, and so they're trying to beg and borrow and steal and make deals with everybody else. So in the end, before I answer any other questions, let me again explain, maybe not with a price tag this time, but let me explain the resources we have and the percentage. Like I said, this will be about 3 or 4% of our energy needs. We will receive, I can look at the number, 215 million. Okay, we will receive 15 million kilowatt hours from this resource. Our resource mix is 400 million for the city. So if you divide 15 million into 400 million, or vice versa, you get about 3 or 4% of our energy needs will come from this resource. Hunter, about 30% of our energy comes from Hunter, the coal-fired plant. About 20% of our energy comes from the federal hydro. As long as we can keep the water levels above those gates that you're hearing about, that's a key issue to us. San Juan is a coal plant, about 3%. And it depends on the year. For example, this year we called back some energy from IPA, which is the Intermountain Power Agency, Delta, and about 10% of our energy is coming from that plant. Cottonwood Hydro usually brings about 4 or 5%. The natural gas turbines on 48 South, down by my offices, about 7 to 10% of our energy comes from there. Trans-Jordan landfill is about 3%. Salt Lake County landfill is about 2%. And then the rest of it comes from deals on the market, deals amongst other cities. And occasionally we'll go on the market, not occasionally, often we'll go on the market and buy a chunk of power between the hours of 1 and 6. We just call that the market or the power exchange. And we don't know what type of resource that is. It could be coal, it could be hydro, it could be anything. We just buy it on the market, and that's the way it is. So with that, Kat, I think my discussion's over. If you have any questions or answers, we will come back at 6:30 and maybe review a little bit about this and then ask for a vote, if that's okay.
Sounds great. Any more questions? Yeah.
Okay, so the federal hydro, the Colorado River, how is that doing? With
You see the headlines.
that's why I'm.
It's not doing well. It's not doing well. We have already received a reduction in allocation for the past 2 years. They've reduced that. Of course, the water level, I don't know what the latest is. Is it 20 feet above the gate? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hundreds of feet below the top of the dam, but and I don't know if anybody else knows that. I don't know what that level. Let's say we're 25 feet from sucking air.
Yes.
Through the.
Because on your paperwork it said like 30%, and I'm going, okay, if we're having problems with the Colorado River and we're getting 30%.
Yeah. Chris was around 20%. It used to be 25. That's what I'm saying. It used to be 25, but we've already received reduction from the federal energy people, and they would reduce that. I expected them to reduce that for next summer if that doesn't increase. Of course, Moab just had flash floods, right? Is that water going into Colorado?
We're hoping maybe that image they showed at the conference will go up versus lower.
Yeah. Yeah, there was not good news from that conference on that.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. But I will, one, I wanted to commend you and Greg for the purchase of natural gas this year to kind of keep us afloat. And if people don't know, it's kind of like the stock rate, what you kind of talked about, buying power every day. And we kind of jumped the gun in doing that. So I really do have to commend you in doing that because it's kept citizens' rates lower, where natural gas is at probably doubled or tripled the amount that we bought it for. So, and then we have the opportunity, right, to sell that if we don't use it all in a day.
Yeah.
So that's also great for citizens. Secondly, I just want to understand, so the amendment to this agreement is the price tag, correct? Is the cost from 23 to 37?
Yeah. The term is still 25 years.
Right.
And $37 versus 23.15. $37 with no escalation.
We also, no escalation. Okay. So those are the terms.
Yeah.
But everything
Brian,
else,
do you know of any more than that involved with that? I think that was about it between the two. Nothing substantial. Yeah, there was
Okay.
the force majeure clause that was tightened up a little bit.
and what's the if somebody else doesn't approve them
Yeah.
into buying into this project, and there's an opportunity for us or another city to buy, what does that look like? Would it go back into UAMS at the board,
Yes.
and everybody would, and then you would come back to the council, or do you
Um,
decide? Like, what's that process look
question.
like?
I would hope I wouldn't have to come back to the council. I hope you'd give me, if there is any left on the table, it's not going to be very much. And the way it works is that if somebody, of the 66 megawatts, if somebody leaves 6 on the table, somebody decides not to do 6, they'll throw that 6 back into the pool. And dependent on your allocation of the original 66 is the percentage you could grab back. Our allocation is 7.5%. So we'd get 7.5% of the 6 megawatts available to bring back in. I would think that no one's going to leave anything on the table on this one.
Okay, well, we'll see. I'm sure they won't, and I know we have a great portfolio already as is, and this just adds to that. And being at those conferences, in comparison, a lot of people don't have such a robust portfolio as we do,
Yeah.
and have a lot of green tags along
have a
with it
mix
too.
of
So
diverse-
we have a very good diverse
Yeah,
portfolio.
we don't have any wind, but that was me. That was me several years ago making that decision. Wind just doesn't come in at 15% load factor in the middle of the night. Didn't fit with us. So
Right.
blame me.
Again, thank you, and thank your team and Greg,
Okay.
and for
Welcome.
really just answering all those questions at those conferences.
I thought the conference had a lot of different topics, diverse topics, and all over the place from, yeah. So thanks for your participation. And they partied pretty good up there too.
All right.
Okay, we'll be back in a half hour then.
Thank you, Blaine. All right. Thank you, everybody. And if there's no objections, we are adjourned until council. Thank you.